we have a U.S. Senate race, and I'm just wondering. I wrote about it yesterday. I'm just wondering. I'll just throw this question out loud, and that is the impact of this election on the U.S. Senate race. There's, 24 candidates, I believe, somewhere around that are vying for the seat. There's probably about 6 or 7 who have a legitimate chance, in my opinion, of winning. There's probably 3 that have a more than legitimate chance. So, what about the flood? How important is the flood issue now compared to all the other issues? I wrote about. Yeah. Go ahead.
It'll be interesting to see who makes it an issue. For example, when it came down to supporting the Hurricane Sandy issue, John Fleming, the congressman from North Louisiana, voted no, as did Bill Cassidy, who was a congressman, now the U.S. Senator. But the other candidate for U.S. Senator, Charles Bustani, voted yes.
Right.
And so Bustani said it was a tough, I think, Bustani, I'd look for him to make that an issue, particularly against Fleming, so he becomes the congressman emerging. What one of those guys are going to have to do, in my opinion, is to emerge as the challenger to John Kennedy. Kennedy is significantly ahead in the polls as in front of the Republican field. Foster Campbell is way out front in the polls I've seen as the Democrat, with Ms. Fayard second, running pretty decent. But my projection right now is it's going to be hard to keep Campbell out, and John Kennedy is way ahead. So Bustani's challenge is, how can he emerge as the challenger to Kennedy and give him a real run for that spot? And to do so, I think he's got to play up the fact that he was there to help. You mentioned Kennedy's not going to show up. I'm not surprised by that. He's way ahead in the polls, number one. Number two, you got 24 candidates at a 2-hour forum. So opening and intro, you're going to get, 3 minutes to speak, if that. There's going to be no way to meet. Sure, it's sitting there in networking, but with 24 candidates, and I'll tell you, I have heard John Kennedy on the radio or seen him on television probably 4 or 5 times in the past week as the treasurer, talking about what the state could do and what he's doing, basically giving a campaign talk, but in his official capacity as treasurer, he's getting a lot of coverage out of this flooding, and doesn't have to get down into the nuts and bolts of the politics. By the way, I thought he was pretty articulate. He made the point, the question to him was, what about Congress helping us when we weren't there for Hurricane Sandy? And he said, well, that got into just 3 or 4 congressmen. I think and I hope that those other states won't hold it against us, particularly, and he has some pretty good figures, the fact that $56 billion of taxpayers' dollars from businesses, individuals, go from Louisiana to the federal treasury, $56 billion, and that we send $6 billion additionally up in terms of oil and gas royalty revenue that really ought to come to the state. It's Louisiana workers going offshore, and it's all right on the 3-mile limit. It's really in Louisiana, but we never made a deal for the feds to give us much of that money. So he's saying we're sending over $60 billion up there. We need some help now. We hope they'll help us. And so he's been pretty articulate about it, but hasn't gotten into the politics of it all, Steve.
So let me jump in, if you don't mind. Okay, so we have a situation where John Fleming was not willing to help out the poor people up there in New Jersey and New York. Same with Steve Scalise, the third most powerful person in the House of Representatives, and so we have a situation where this state now needs a lot of money. And the question is, if you're living in Iowa, or Kansas, or Wyoming, or New York, New Jersey, being asked to dig deep out of your pockets, out of your governmental pockets, and give to a state where three legislators, which included Bill Cassidy, who is now U.S. Senator. is asking them to bail out this state that received billions of dollars in the past, and yet we snub those people. I mean, I would be saying, no way, Jose, not a shot, especially given the fact that there is a lot, and I'm throwing this out, there's a lot of misleading information about, oh, these guys again, well, they shouldn't be by the coast. I'm not advocating that. I'm just telling you that this is what's going to be said. And for, John Fleming, what's he going to say? Well, the thing is that, I didn't want to spend that much money, for that. And so that's why I said no. Or he's going to say, I wanted to make sure that we had enough money as an offset to fund. So if we pay $20 million, $50 million, I think they spent over $50 billion rather, I want to make sure that we cut that elsewhere. I mean, you think that the people in New Jersey and New York right now are going to give one diddly squat about that?
Well,
no.
I see what you're saying, and I think it's an uphill fight. On the other hand, we do have this going for us. We've got the president who came down here, who I think is much more sympathetic than, say, other members, some of the members of Congress would be. Look, if I were the governor of this state, or if I were the U.S. senator trying to orchestrate this, I would do exactly what was done back after Katrina, where we had an uphill fight, particularly with the tug of war between the Republicans and our Democratic governor. And there was a great task force of Chamber of Commerce officials, people like SaveTheLevees.org, Sandy Rosenthal, Ann Milling, and just a number of ladies from the storm that traveled throughout the country, met with editorial boards, went to see members of Congress to lay a foundation. And I think we're going to have to do that again if we have any shot at all of giving some kind of a break, whether it be the president's executive orders through FEMA, whether it be an additional appropriation. But I agree with you. It was a long shot with Katrina. We did pull it off, but it's more of a long shot this time around. I think you're right on.
It's a big long shot because, I mean, think of this. Okay, the damage is, basically in Baton Rouge and in the surrounding area. As we mentioned last week, Katrina was Texas, virtually all of South Louisiana, much of Mississippi, and on to Alabama and Florida. So, we had all those states who were pitching in to try collectively to be able to get, some revenues. Then, in addition to that, and, people may be angry for me to say this, okay, but we had Mary Landrieu. Mary Landrieu was by far, you ask anybody in Congress, she was the person who got us money. In this state, we decided 2 years ago, okay, that money didn't make any difference. We don't need government money. I had friends telling me that, Jim. I had, political friends, radio talk show hosts, people on Facebook saying, look, we don't need any money. I said, what if we have another major storm? And one friend said, well, look, Katrina was a 1,000-year storm. That means we have 990 years left to go. You know what? Look what happened. Mary Landrieu, who went through this, and you ask any U.S. senator who was a person who made things happen, it was it wasn't David Vitter, it was Mary Landrieu. Okay? Time and time and time again. In fact, Mary Landrieu was trying to, quite frankly, get, no state prior to Louisiana had ever had to pay, any percentage. David Vitter agreed to 10% that we would have to repay. So, we made that decision. Think of the U.S. Senate race. What did we focus on? We focused on Obama and Landrieu. As I I said yesterday, if Obama was a devil, then Mary Landrieu was the wife of the devil. And what was the issue? We don't want to spend federal money. Well, guess what? We now need federal money. The person who had the seniority is no longer with us. So she's working on in Washington, and hopefully she'll be able to help out. I think the 2-year period, I think it's 2 years, will have prescribed. But, who do we have now in the U.S. Senate? We have a nice guy. We have Bill Cassidy, very, very capable. Okay? And certainly, he's from Baton Rouge, so he has a doggone strong interest in getting money. He is a rookie. He's been in there. He will have been in there for 2 years. Just 2 years.
And he voted against the Sandy money.
Senior. He will be the senior senator, mind you, the senior senator. And guess what? He voted against funding Hurricane Sandy. Now, if you're a senator and you're sitting there and here's Bill Cassidy, who is low on the totem pole, and he's saying, hey, I want some money, and you're a U.S. senator from New York or New Jersey or wherever it may be, you're going to say, wait a minute, let's get some things straight here. Okay? So I got to tell you, look, for our legislators, for our Congress people, to have voted no on that issue. I mean, to me, that's that was a selling out of Louisiana. You talk about the Louisiana Purchase, that's a selling out of Louisiana. Hurricanes are going to happen. Storms are going to happen. And what do? You just close your eyes to what we know is the future? I mean, that is just absurd. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves. Because the people in Baton Rouge, they're the ones who hurt. And we have, what do we have? We have nobody in the Senate. We have nobody in the House who has any experience at all. We have Steve Scalise, who has experience, but he voted against, the hurricane up in Northeast. From a political standpoint, people blame Mary Landrieu for Louisiana Purchase. I got to tell you, that ain't nothing compared to what we have dealt with right now.
Well, all I can tell you is their answer is that the Hurricane Sandy final appropriation was loaded up with a number of pork barrel projects that were not related to Hurricane Sandy. That's going to be their answer. But look, this is nothing new, Steve. I mean, the presidential election, you decide to bring up politics, is irrelevant in Louisiana. We are a knee-jerk state that's going to vote for Donald Trump. And it just isn't going to change. And that's just the way it is. And so elections have consequences, and votes have consequences. And so we're just going to see just how irritated people are with what their representatives did, or will they continue to embrace them as they have in the past. We've not really held our congressional delegation that accountable, quite frankly. Everybody hates Congress. They're the worst thing since the Zika virus, but we love our own congressman. We love our own senator, and they get by generally without any opposition. So I hear what you're saying.
It's so foreseeable. I mean, we had in 2012, we had that little thing that was called a tropical storm. This is foreseeable. And for them to have said, oh, well, there's some pork out there and we can't fund this. Guess what? That's what they said about Louisiana. Okay? They said, hey, we're going to give this money to Louisiana. Okay, you know where that money's going to go. Well, some of the money did go down the tube, down the political drain. But that's not an excuse after you get bailed out and you tell people, there's money out there and their final statement on that was not that there was pork, but I want to make sure that we have money, that we have an offset. That was the final statement. So I got to tell you, people in Baton Rouge, they ought to be angry. Okay, if we have problems getting funding, but they ought to be angry at people who made a stupid decision. Like Donald Trump said, we have stupid leaders. And that was a stupid decision. We're Louisiana. We need more money than anybody else.
Well, here's our choices. We can run Steve Sabludowsky for U.S. Senate next time around and let him go up there and shake it up. In the meantime, though, while that discussion needs to be held and there should be much more accountability, and by the way, there's been some stories about it. There's been no editorials written by the local papers where you live and where I live holding the members of Congress accountable. So the press is not, I've seen not one TV interview where a microphone's been stuck in front of the three congressmen, Steve Scalise, and said, did you turn your back on our area by that vote? The press has not held those guys accountable. In the meantime,
there's been a story, there was a recent story in the Advocate, actually. Okay, it was an article.
There's been no judgment passed, and I've not seen a TV station put the microphone in front of these guys. I've not seen an editorial about it.
Most people don't know about it. Most people, they don't know about it. I think it's going to get out there. I think the candidates themselves, okay, who want to make sure that they know that they're different from those people who were not considering Louisiana at the time. And I think it will get in and ought to get out. It's a big issue, okay, a major issue that's going to affect those people right now who have been impacted. So, look, I'm willing to get off of it. I just wanted to express my feeling about it because I just think, I do feel for those people in Baton Rouge and those people outside.
Got political overtones, but let's talk about the Democrats. Hillary Clinton says she's not coming down here. Donald Trump was right here in the middle of it all, and the feeling was the governor of our state, a Democrat, said, I'm glad Donald Trump came. I want him to realize the pain we're going through. So, that could be an issue affecting Clinton as the...
Sure, and it ought to be. It certainly ought to be. I don't have any problem with that. I really don't. And I'm against Donald Trump. Look, let's put it like this. That this was a political stunt by Donald Trump. That's what it was.
It worked. People appreciate it. I think most people knew that. But they said, listen, at least he cared. He came down here, and most people kind of say, well, he got the president off dead center. The president ran right back down after him, but see, I got to tell you this. We could debate this on, and it's a very legitimate issue to be talked about in this senatorial campaign and these congressional campaigns. Having said that, though, somebody's got to start thinking about the fact, as you've concluded, that we may not get that money. The odds are against us getting that change out of Congress. And so we've got thousands and thousands of people who have lost their home, their only possession, who are basically on the street. And what is the responsibility of Louisiana to do about it? Should there, and there are some alternatives, and we got some bright people in this state, and there's some things we can do. Is there an emergency bond issue that can be put together? What are the options? And that needs to be discussed fairly quickly, because those thousands of people are going to get $5,000 or $6,000, get them through a couple of months, or say, here we are. And then you see, we even got this problem. As a lawyer, you and I see these problems. The mortgage company, let's assume your home is worth $150,000. You're fairly new into it, and you owe $145,000. You've been paying interest the first year. Well, the check that you get from your insurance company, if you're fully insured, right, has to go to the mortgage company. They've got to sign it too. And some of these mortgage companies say, well, we see how you flooded down there. We just don't think we want to let you rebuild that place. We don't want the loan. Let's just hang on to this money, and we want you to sign it over for us, and let's just shut this loan down. Oh, by the way, you owe us $15,000, $20,000. So give us the money on top of what we got from FEMA. And so I said, no, I'm not going to do that. We'll go get a lawyer and sue me. So you've got so many tough, complicated issues in the short run that I think that a lot of folks are going to have to deal with. The governor needs to get him in effect, a recovery czar, if you will, someone that's gone through this before, whether it be a Senator John Breaux or any number of names out there. General Honore, guy Jamie Witt, who used to be head of FEMA, to come in here and head up the recovery effort and put a task force together. What are these alternatives? What can we do in the short run? What do we do in the long run? What's our federal response? How do we deal with the congressman? And really put this together on his own. There's just not the talent, say, within. I don't mean to disparage the governor. I think John Bel Edwards is doing a good job, but he's got a staff that's busy. He needs to get some independent group, give them an emergency appropriation, give them a couple of $1 million to set up shop, and let them structure a response to this event.